How can you tell when someone is bluffing you? Andy Stacks here has been put in a tough spot. He has nothing but ace high on this board, but because he's so good at the game, he's actually considering a call. Nick Vertucci, someone known to play really tight, has gone all in with his missed flush draw. Nick's exploiting his button position to take advantage of the hand. Before we come to Andy's decision, let's look closely at the betting action up until this point to see if we can spot any telltale signs of a bluff. The hand starts out with Nick calling a small raise of $125. This tells us he doesn't quite hold a premium hand. Andy 3-bets a raise to $625. He obviously doesn't want too many players in the pot. However, not only do Chris and Nick call his raise, but the flop of 6, 8 and 3 with 2 diamonds makes for a very disappointing flop. While he can still rep strength, he decides to check due to the 2 players behind him. Chris checks with a weak bottom pair, hoping to see a cheap turn. Nick has a nut flush draw and would ideally like to take down the pot here and now. However, instead of betting large, he goes in for a small 1/3 pot size bet of $700. I think that's a mistake because he's allowing anyone with 1 pair or even someone with just 2 overcards to float with their hand. It's a bet that can only invite trouble, in my opinion, and it does. Andy goes in for the check raise to $2,000. This is a good bet trying to weed out weaker hands, and it successfully gets Chris to fold. Nick, however, is pot committed now and makes the call. The turn is a 10 of spades, and Andy continues to represent a strong hand by betting $6,300. Nick thinks for a bit and eventually just calls. Now, because Nick opted to just call, it's almost certain that he doesn't have a straight. If he had, he would have probably shoved all in. The river card pairs the board up with an 8 of hearts. Andy just checks, hoping for a cheap showdown. However, Nick is in no mood to turn over his cards just yet. He decides to go all in for $10,675. That's a little more than half pot. Now, Andy has to be thinking about what Nick has. A straight is almost certainly ruled out because that would have been a shove on the turn in most cases. An ace 8 would have bet higher on the flop instead of just 1/3. And if Nick had pocket pair like 7s or 9s, which would be a good continuation hand on this board, wouldn't those hands just opt for a free showdown? So something doesn't seem to quite add up. Andy can only call if he's putting Nick on a missed flush draw, which does look like a high possibility given the way the actions played out. He does eventually make the call, and it's a good call at that. At least for me, Nick's bet size on the flop gave it away, although Andy may have been able to pick up on some other tells. I like to find interesting poker hands like this and go through them on my channel, so if you enjoy such videos, please do subscribe. Do also check out the videos listed here, they're definitely worth watching. And remember, in the game of poker and in life, bet on yourself and never give up.